Hello and welcome to this top 10 rankings of the top 10 players coming into Masters Bangkok, according to me. Um, I've seen quite a lot of people do this currently, especially with the Plat Chat episode and everything. There's been quite a lot of these going around, so I thought I'd make my own. Um, and as the Plat Chat members did, they did a top 15, so I'm just going to add five honorable mentions here at the start, which are going to be Safe, Chichu, Hyunmin, Jonah P, and Jogamo. I think Safe overall has looked good, but I just think he's looked about where I expected, although he's been impressive on the IGLing role as well, which I think is really impressive. I feel like his numbers aren't that outstanding, and I feel like there are two players on his teams that looks more important in terms of overall star power. Um, then coming on to Chichu, I just think in general I'm a bit lower on this EDG roster than a lot of other people are. I think Smoggy could probably be on here as well, but I just overall think this team shoots really well, but other than that, they haven't looked that good so far. Of course, they have in general been a team that's turned up to internationals, so I could be completely wrong here, and they could be really good. And in that case, I shot the bad, my bad. But yeah, I just don't see it right now. Then we have Hyunmin, who I was debating for a long time to put on the list, but I just have, similar to another player that we're going to talk about later, I just have a bit of doubt that he has looked really good and he has shot really well, but also he's won a bunch of fights which he really shouldn't win. So I don't know if he's going to win those fights against these top teams. And sure, he's won it against some APAC top teams, but even then, is like you're coming into an international, you're a rookie, you've never played at this big of a stage before. Like there's a lot of things going into it. And I just think overall, he hasn't really proven it on against the best of the best as much as I would want to see to be on this top 10. Then Jonah P and Jogamo, I just think there are two better G2 players, and I feel like putting more than two players from one team in the top 10 would be kind of excessive. I think Jogamo, the argument I have there is mostly just he has had a pretty rough kickoff. Although he's he's looked good, don't get me wrong. He's just statistically his numbers are not looking as good as you think from a guy like Jogamo. And Jonah is more of the supportive player, so I feel like in terms of impact game by game, I feel like generally there will be a bit more inconsistency in that, although he will always have that support impact in the fragging potential. I feel like there's a bit of inconsistency in Jonah's game, which means I have two players above them, maybe even. I don't even know why I didn't put Val in here, to be honest, but maybe it's just because he's IGLing, but honestly, he could be on here as well. Like, this team is just ridiculous. Either way, going into the top 10, we're actually going to start with a pretty controversial one, I think. Luaking here from Trace, who I feel like has been flown under so many people's radars. Like, if people are talking about a Trace player, almost everybody's talking about Kai. Well, Luaking has the best KD. He has really solid, he has so good numbers for a controller player, and he's looked so good, especially in the big games. Like, even if you're looking in the grand finals, if you're looking in these, best of fives, like these big games, Luaking has been the guy for them. Like, he has been so good. He's passed the eye test for me as well. So I don't really understand why people are sleeping on him so much. Maybe somewhat that I wanted to put a Trace player here, and maybe it's a bit of a controversial take to not have Kai but have Luaking, but I just think he's looked that good this kickoff. Um, Moving on to number 9, we have Mako, which is the first DRX player. And basically, the reason I have him here over Hyunmin is a bit of that veteran. Like, we've seen Mako so much, and also just in general, like, the performance on Mako is so consistent. Like, sure, he might not drop insane fragging numbers every single game, but he's just consistently doing solidly every single game. It will never really have an off game, and he's just ridiculously good every single game, and it's just insane. And this man is out of this world, and that's why I put him at 9 here. Going on to Zekin, who is probably a bit lower than I feel like a lot of other people would have put him. But basically, it has a bit with recent form, as I feel like at least the top six, there's a pretty big tier gap where it's just like, all right, these players have clearly been in high form in kickoff. Basically, my top six have just kind of been players that have been in extremely good form in kickoff, and then maybe I base it a bit of like previous experiences and stuff with the placements, but I feel like the top six, you gotta almost put those six at the top six just because how extremely good all of them have looked in terms of like recent performances. But yeah, second has looked really. He's been the best player on Sentinels. Like he has been. He has looked really good. He's just gotten that bit. He's gotten to play quite a lot of Yoru, which means he's not really been able to frag out as heavily as we've seen before. But like if you look at his numbers, like these numbers are still ridiculous. Although his ratings and stats and everything are not as high as we usually see, they're still ridiculous. Moving on to seven, we have Les, which is the first player on Vitality, and I feel like the one that I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on. Les have had a quietly really good tournament. And sure, you look at his ACS and his rating, and it's not like super duper high for a player to be seventh, but it's just that sort of like he's just been that rock for Vitality. And sure, he doesn't look that flashy a lot of the time because of that he is that rock. Like he's always in the back lines. He's always the one that's like one of the last people to be there and to clutch it out and to win these huge moments for Vitality. And he's so good at it. Like there's a reason his KD is at a 1.15. Like he has been such an underrated player this tournament, man. I mean, we all knew Les was going to be good, and if we would have predicted a top 10 list before this event, before even kickoff happened, probably a lot of people would have Les on there. But it's just, I feel like people just expect so much heroics from Les that when he just has a really like good team around him and can play that sort of role which he should be playing like he is, he just doesn't get as much recognition as I feel like he deserves because he's been so good on Vitality, man. So good. Moving on now to the top six that I was talking about these players that have just looked outstanding. We start off with Freeing, who, as we see, have solo queued Teo, basically. Not solo queued, but only played Teo the entire event. And he has been probably the most ridiculous rookie in this entire tournament. The only reason I have him sixth is kind of similar to why Hyunmin isn't on this list, and it's we just don't know. There's a lot of uncertainties with this guy. This guy has never played a tier one event. He has never been to an international. And the only thing we've seen basically is this kickoff and some matches from like multiple years ago. So yeah. I mean his numbers look insane, and that's why I can't really put him any lower than this. But overall, I just think that there's some doubts, especially we saw some games at the end where the RX were choking, and then Freeing looked like he was in that in some sense as well, which is why I have some doubts, but I think he's still gonna be like one of the best players, and he should be your top six player, no matter what on your list, with how good he's been playing. Moving on to Kiko, who is fifth. And I'd say it's kind of similar here. Although Kiko played last year, he was not really like he's just come out of nowhere and is looking like he's looking like Prime Demon One man on smokes. It's just ridiculous what he's putting up for numbers right now. And is it sustainable against top teams? I don't know, but I mean he has been looking insane. I feel like he's gonna cool off though. And as I said, he's never been to an international before. Or maybe he has. I don't know if Liquid made an international last year. Maybe they did. Either way, he does not have a lot of high level play experience, basically. And also he's on a completely new role. Like there's a lot of different things that like I feel like could go wrong in this event. And also in general, I just think he is kind of just hard carrying a pretty like mid roster. And for that reason, it's like a bit difficult to rate him. Like, how good would he be on Vitality, for example? I don't think he would have had these numbers if he played on Vitality. It's just that he's playing on Team Liquid. And he's getting put in these moments where he's forced to clutch. And sure, he does it, but he's kind of just hard carrying a team where in most of the times he would probably not have these numbers because he wouldn't need to hard carry this much. So I think his numbers are maybe slightly inflated due to that, but still, it's ridiculous what this guy's put up. Moving on to number 4, we have Trent, who have had a bit of like a low key tournament where he's just been ridiculous every single game, but I feel like nobody is talking about him. Like he is just, by the way, first D2 player on the list. He's just ridiculous, man. He had one of the highest ratings of the entire tournament, and I'm pretty sure the highest rating of a top 4 team, and it wasn't really remotely close, maybe except for another guy that's higher up on this list. And his ACS is high, his KD is ridiculous. Like this guy just does not lose fights. He genuinely is looking like Prime Leo as he's looking right now. Like he's just ridiculous at this current moment. Moving on to top 3, we have Kong here. Which I feel like a lot of people probably will say is low for Kong, but it's mostly just has to do with my doubt on this EDG roster right now. I do think he is ridiculous, right? 270 ACS is fucking insane. But at the same time, when you see that 270 ACS, that's with 2 maps where EDG just basically relied on Kong killing each other, killing everybody, and they got 1-13-0, 13-0, and they basically lost like 5 rounds per map on most of the maps at the end of the tournament, meaning Kong just fucking fragged out every single game. And the question is then, is it mostly just Kong being good, or is it just the other teams being bad? And I don't really know. Or like the other teams might, like it could just have been that the other teams just fumbled. It's like under the pressure of playing against EDG, you know? Because it is EDG still, and they have been this sort of way in China for so long, where they've just like looked iffy, and then teams just fumble the bag against them. But yeah, third, Kong. Second, we have Leaf, who honestly, if it wasn't for those final 2 games, would probably be first here. I was considering putting him first though, but I think those final 2 games showed that he could be emptied and that like there is some level of counter you can do to him and that he can have rough maps. But still, man, this guy is so consistent. It's ridiculous. He's just so consistently good, and he's getting so much value on G2 right now. Like, he's just ridiculously good, and it's like that chamber is so fucking insane, man. That Pearl chamber is genuinely a masterclass. But yeah, he's just ridiculous, and that's why I've put him second. He's just that good. Moving on to number 1. No surprise from anyone. It's gonna be Durka. And anybody who has watched Durka this tournament will look at those stats and be like, he has shown the eye test. I feel like everybody has Durka at number 1. Like those stats are just like some games at the end where he didn't really perform to the same level. But it's not like he didn't perform at an insanely high level this entire tournament. Like 250 ACS in EMEA is ridiculous. Like he's genuinely close to Kong, but we know these EMEA teams are shooting back. It's not like these EMEA teams are crumbling under the pressure of playing against Team Vitality. Like he's just diffing everybody, and it's just ridiculous. And like he's playing his role perfectly. Like this sort of entry duelist, it's just so ridiculous what he does in that role, man. And he's so good at it that it's actually just insane. Like that rating is so much lower than it should be. Like that rating could genuinely be like a 1.3. Like it's ridiculous what this guy does when he's online. Like he's just playing like out of his fucking mind. It's actually wild. Like just watch a Durka game and just watch what he does and you'll be amazed. Like this guy has like I think like almost a fourth of the first bloods in every single game he plays. Meaning, like, if there's like a normal ass fucking 24 round game, he's gonna have 8 first bloods. Or no, wait, 6 first bloods. Yeah, he's gonna have 6 first bloods. And like that's insane. Like generally he has almost always at least 10 first bloods in a BO3. Like at least. He can even have like 15, 20. Like he's just ridiculous, and there's nothing stopping him right now, and he's just so fucking good. Um, but yeah, so overall, this will be my top 10 list. Durka, Leaf, Kong Kong, Trent, Kiko, Freeing, Les, second, Mako, Law King. I'm actually pretty happy with it. A bit of a controversial pick with Law King, which I kind of like. It's kind of fun to have that sort of curveball in there. But otherwise, I feel like I'm pretty happy with this list. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.